Welcome to Delta History, where the battlefield speaks and the truth cuts through the fog of war. Tonight, we bring you a story of power, pride, and ultimate collapse. It is the story of Russia's most advanced tank, the so-called Black Panther, and how its grand assault ended in a stunning defeat that shocked both allies and enemies alike. This is not just the fall of a tank, but the collapse of an illusion. Birth of the Predator. Russia unveiled the Black Panther tank with fanfare and triumphal speeches. It was supposed to be the answer to decades of Western superiority in armored warfare. The Kremlin promised that this machine would eclipse Germany's Leopard 2, America's Abrams, and Britain's Challenger. With boasts of layered composite armor, next-generation reactive plating, advanced fire control systems, integrated drone defenses, and the ability to maneuver at high speeds across difficult terrain, the Black Panther was declared the invincible Predator. Moscow did not hesitate to parade it on Red Square, its black steel frame glistening under the lights, while propagandists called it the future of armored war. It was not merely a machine, it was meant to be a symbol of Russian inevitability, a weapon that would break Ukraine's spirit and remind NATO of Moscow's reach. But the battlefield is a ruthless judge. The battle plan. By early 2025, Russia's command drew up plans for a decisive push along the contested borderlands. Intelligence suggested Ukraine was stretched thin, and Russian generals wanted a symbolic blow, one that would prove to the world that Russia could still dominate the battlefield. The Black Panther was placed at the tip of the spear. Columns of these tanks would charge forward in the vanguard, supported by mechanized infantry and artillery barrages designed to smash Ukrainian defenses before reinforcements could arrive. On paper, the plan was bold, swift, and overwhelming. But NATO intelligence had already intercepted Russian communications. Every move, every staging ground, and every planned axis of advance was mapped and relayed to Ukraine's commanders. The Predators were walking into a kill zone. Ukraine prepares the trap. Ukrainian forces knew what was coming. Reconnaissance drones circled silently overhead, watching every Russian assembly point. Engineers laid hidden minefields along the most likely tank routes. Special forces marked kill zones with laser designators, ready to guide artillery and missile fire with pinpoint precision. Anti-tank teams armed with American Javelins and Ukraine's own Stugna P missiles dug into camouflaged positions. HIMARS batteries were placed on standby, pre-programmed to strike the exact coordinates of Russian columns once they entered the trap. For Ukraine, this was not merely defense. It was the chance to destroy Russia's most prized creation in one single battle. The hunters had become the hunted. Russia's path to victory was already marked as the road to ruin. The assault begins. At dawn, the Black Panthers roared to life. Engines thundered as entire armored brigades pushed forward across the fields. Dust clouds trailed behind them, and the earth trembled under their tracks. Infantry followed cautiously, but the tanks spearheaded the advance with brutal confidence. From a distance, the sight was terrifying. A steel phalanx rolling across the plain. Russian commanders believed this show of force alone would break Ukrainian defenses. Tank crews fired shells into abandoned trenches, convinced the enemy had already fled. Drone footage, later released, showed the image of confidence. Long, black armored beasts, their turrets scanning the horizon, the so-called Predators marching toward glory. But glory turned quickly to disaster. The kill zone ignites. The first sign came suddenly. A mine detonated beneath the lead Black Panther, ripping off its track and halting the column. Seconds later, Ukrainian artillery thundered, pounding the rear of the formation, trapping the tanks in place. Then the drones descended. FPV drones screamed from the sky, slamming into turrets and hatches with devastating precision. Explosions ripped through the armored line, and the once proud advance turned into chaos. A javelin missile streaked from the tree line, striking the second Black Panther directly in the turret. Fire erupted from within, the ammunition cooking off in a violent blast. A third tank was disabled by drone-dropped munitions, its engine compartment shredded. Narrator: what began as a march of power turned instantly into a corridor of fire. Collapse of the Predator. Within minutes, the situation unraveled. Russian communications broke down under Ukrainian jamming. Tank crews shouted conflicting orders, commanders were cut off, and panic spread through the ranks. Thermal drone footage captured the carnage, Black Panthers igniting one after another, their hulks smoldering in the fields. In one horrifying moment, a turret was blasted skyward, landing yards away in twisted wreckage, a stark image that would circle the globe. The vaunted armor, designed to withstand NATO weapons, crumbled before the precision of Ukraine's ambush. Russian forces attempted to retreat, but by then, every road was zeroed in by Ukrainian artillery. HIMARS rockets slammed into retreating convoys, scattering vehicles and flaming debris. Infantry abandoned their positions, fleeing on foot across open fields. Some tanks, immobilized or out of fuel, were left behind. Others were destroyed deliberately by their crews to prevent capture. But the wreckage could not be hidden. Drone cameras showed a battlefield littered with the remains of Russia's pride burning in the mud. By nightfall, silence returned. The once feared predators were reduced to blackened carcasses, their final roar swallowed by smoke and fire. Strategic consequences. The destruction of the Black Panther tanks was more than a battlefield setback. It was a strategic disaster. Ukraine released drone footage of the burning wrecks, instantly shared across global media. NATO officials quietly celebrated the vindication of their support. Russian propagandists, meanwhile, scrambled to explain the loss, blaming bad weather, satellite interference, even betrayal. But excuses could not mask the truth. Russia had gambled everything on its most advanced armor, and lost. Morale among Russian troops plummeted. Soldiers whispered that if the Black Panther could burn, then nothing was safe. Ukrainian confidence, however, soared. The myth of Russian invincibility had been broken. Military analysts concluded that the battle had not only destroyed dozens of tanks, but also shattered Russia's prestige. The Black Panther, once advertised as the future of Russian warfare, had become a grave marker of Moscow's arrogance. Global shockwaves. The world reacted with disbelief. Images of destroyed Black Panthers dominated news headlines. NATO commanders studied the footage, drawing lessons for future warfare. Asian and Middle Eastern nations considering arms deals with Russia quietly reconsidered their options. For Moscow, the embarrassment was total. Years of propaganda collapsed in a single day. The Black Panther had not roared like a predator. It had died like prey. Closing reflection. Narrator: this was not just a tactical defeat. It was a symbolic collapse. The Black Panther tank, once hailed as the future of Russian armor, now lies in ruins, a burned-out monument to pride, a reminder that technology without strategy is nothing but wasted steel. This is Delta history, where the battlefield speaks and the truth cuts through the fog of war. The story of Russia's Black Panther tanks reminds us that wars are not won by pride alone, but by preparation, intelligence, and resilience. And in this war, it was not the predator that triumphed, but the prey that struck back with deadly precision.